Clearly, the Battle of the Bay is now the Battle of the Bay Area to cope with a major, devastating earthquake that rocked California at just after 5 o'clock. Some seismologists are measuring it at 5.7. Some say, rather 6.7. Some are saying it's 7.0. The technicality of how large it was remains to be decided by the scientists. What we know is that it has been devastating for many people in the Bay Area.
Exactly, and we have seen some extraordinary reaction. In fact, in that video that you saw as we opened our 11 o'clock newscast tonight, you already see people out on the streets doing what they can to help others, and there have been several circumstances where that help is needed perhaps as much as we have ever needed it here in the Bay Area.
One of the most devastating incidents in this entire event was the collapse of Highway 880. Many people involved in the collapse of the Cypress structure were transported to several East Bay hospitals. The latest report we have right now about injuries, Letterman Army Hospital said that it has treated 11 victims, most of whom were admitted with trauma crush injuries from the bridge disaster. Highland Hospital admitted 29 earthquake victims with a range of injuries. 7 of them were serious trauma patients from that accident. The Oakland Naval Hospital also took some of the bridge collapse victims, including one person who had a collapsed lung. Some of the people underwent surgery tonight and were admitted. Hospitals are not giving any details about fatalities at this time, but we do know that the Cypress structure collapsed approximately a mile of roadway, pancaking down on a lower roadway, was the most devastating. The total death toll right now for this entire Bay Area region is estimated at close to 250, and perhaps as many as 400 people are reported injured.
One of the problems we have here, and we'll tell you this because I heard it just shortly before we came on it, and that is that the figure of 200 people killed on 880 at the Cypress section is at around 200. They expect it perhaps to go higher, and the reason is that they are counting only those that they've been able to remove from the cars crushed at that point, and they think there are still a lot of cars that left. But again, fully a mile of the freeway collapsed.
The rescue operation is extremely complicated. After seeing that video, you know why. And Channel 7's Leslie Brinkley is on the scene now. Leslie?
Yes, Anna, that's exactly right. There is a half-mile section of the 880 freeway, the Nimitz freeway, that has collapsed this afternoon. You can see it behind me. It is incredible. I think a lot of the rescue workers here are in disbelief that something this disastrous could really have happened here. It collapsed. We have final word, or a word confirmed so far, of 6 fatalities, over 100 injured. Many of the workers here say they think that number is going to go up quite a bit. From 8th to 32nd Street, leading to the Bay Bridge, the Nimitz Freeway, the upper deck, the upper ramp, collapsed onto the lower ramp. It's completely collapsed between 20th and 32nd Street. The cement columns just gave way. They crumbled. And the cars, the rush hour traffic on that lower deck was crushed. Those on the top level were told many walked away, were driven to area hospitals, but those driving on that bottom tier, a lot of fatalities there. There's only a 1.5-foot crawl space there, a very small area for the rescue workers to get in and search around for survivors. One described to us a van that he saw, 8-passenger van, crushed to as small as 3 feet high. Just behind me, about a city block away, they are working on rescuing one child who is still trapped in a car. Some of the rescue workers heard voices, heard children screaming. They found a car where the 2 parents, the 2 adults in the front seat, were crushed to death, and there was a 7-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl still trapped in the back seat. The one 9-year-old has been taken to the hospital.
Situation.
I don't mean this as frivolous as it may sound, but there's always talk of earthquake weather.
There's just no truth to that. There is no truth to the fact that the weather has anything to do with earthquakes. That's really widely recognized by the scientific community. It's not just something that I alone subscribe to. So I can say with great confidence that most of the scientific community will tell you there is simply no correlation between weather conditions, prevailing weather conditions, and an earthquake.
One in Alaska, it was cold and snowing, in fact.
This is exactly. Look at Alaska with all of the quakes up there. If they needed warm weather, Alaska would never have a quake. So clearly there's no correlation.
All right, Mark.
All right.
You mentioned the Bay Bridge. We're going to review that for you because you hadn't heard the astounding news. Well, we'll tell you what it is as we take a look at what happened on the Bay Bridge today when the westbound upper deck collapsed onto the eastbound lower deck, and you can see the cars caught by that. The people in those cars as far as we know, are still alive. They are injured, but they got them out alive. Now, initially we were told that this would be a number of weeks at least before the situation was assessed and certainly repaired. Well, lo and behold, the military has been called in to help repair the Bay Bridge, and they now say they'll have 3 lanes, both east and westbound, reopened in 2 days. That is Thursday. How? Well, Caltrans says there is a superstructure support beam process the military uses, and they can put up a temporary fix, if you will, to the bridge. Don't expect to be making your commute runs on Thursday on the Bay Bridge, but at least the major communication transportation link between East and West Bays will be somehow, they say, back to some semblance of use by Thursday. Remarkable.
Another scene of tragedy was in the Marina District in San Francisco, where 12 buildings either collapsed or went up in flames, and this is near the intersection of Beach and Divisadero. This fire broke out shortly after the earthquake. The firefighters were hard-pressed there to get enough water on the fire. They had to resort to pulling citizens off the street and asking them to help with the hoses and even pumping some water from the day to finally get that fire under control. But here's a building that collapsed. The fatalities in the Marina District is 8 at this time. And one of our reporters came back and told us that it was a 75 by 75 foot area that had gone up in flames.
Another area hit was downtown San Francisco. Glass, the culprit in this case. Terrible injuries. This is the I. Magnin facade. The only major, as far as we know, downtown department store to lose a lot of glass. Macy's and Neiman Marcus did not. These are the folks who suffered the wrath of the glass, cut by the glass as it fell to the sidewalk. This one in the head, this female companion with this young man threw herself, no, this is a young woman.
Another of the on her brother, actually.
On her brother to protect him. She lost some fingers and was terribly cut up. It was a scene of a great deal of agony in Union Square this afternoon, and much serious injuries from the glass, which is always the hazard in earthquakes, no matter where it is.
And Belva Davis, who came back from, she was right there when it happened, said that that was the one building where the glass fell from. She said it didn't happen from the other buildings nearby, and there are other big department stores, Macy's and Neiman Marcus, but this is where the glass fell out and struck people below.
I was handed a note I want to make mention. The Salvation Army is appealing for volunteers. This is in San Francisco. Sandwiches, people to bring sandwich material. They want breads and meats and the like in 2 locations in San Francisco. I'm sorry, 1 in San Francisco, 1 in Oakland. If you want to help,